Good morning. It is Tuesday morning, 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time, and we are live with your team media. Today, we're going to do something special. Instead of me interviewing an expert or someone with experience that has of interest to those adults who are raising teens, we have actual teens. Some of you may remember them. These are our teen interns, Justin and Camy. They were on a couple of weeks ago, but we're going to do it a little different today. Today, I am going to pass the mic to them and I'm going to disappear, and it will be their show. First, they're going to introduce themselves to you, and then I'm going to remind you of our little housekeeping tips, and we'll be off. Why don't you start, Camy?
I'm Camy. I am an incoming freshman, a college freshman, and I just recently graduated from Paideia, and I'm excited to talk to everyone.
Yeah, I'm Justin. I'm an upcoming senior at Paideia, and I'm actually very excited for this. I was very looking forward to this.
Great. I'm glad to hear that because I kind of sprung it on them. It wasn't part of their original intern duties, but it was an idea that came up. We're going to do the formatting a little differently today. I know most of you are used to us popping questions up and asking questions of our guests during the podcast. You're still going to be able to ask questions of the guests, but since I'm going to disappear, what I will do is I will curate your questions and we'll ask them at the end. So please, whenever you have a question or comment, please put it in the comment section because I will be monitoring that. But at the end of their discussion between the two of them, they will address any of your questions or comments. So please, if you're watching us live, feel free to ask a question or comment and just put it in the comment section as usual. Just know that it won't pop up for discussion until the later half of this episode. Having said that, if you are watching a replay, it's obvious by now they will not be around to address your questions or comments, but you should feel free to dialogue with others who are watching the replay. And if there are no questions from our host today, I'm so happy to have real live teens. I will pop out. Do you guys have questions for me?
No.
They've got this. Okay, so I will see everybody later on. Have a good show.
All right, so today's episode is called Building the Connection Between Parents and Teens. And today we'll be talking about the connection and the possible disconnect between parents and teens, along with how social media, mental health, everything like that plays into the relationship between parents and their teens. I think we can start with the first question.
Okay, so the first question is, what platforms do you use, and what do you use each for? I guess I can go. I use Snapchat, Instagram, and TikTok, and Pinterest. Um, I would say Snapchat is used more like I use that a lot to communicate with friends. I think that's used a lot instead of iMessage a lot, but also just to see what my friends are doing. And then Pinterest for me is to like get ideas for certain stuff. I don't know, like I'm kind of a creative person and I'm into art, so I use that a lot for art. And Instagram, I think it's a really big social media platform that people feel they can express themselves like to their fullest and who their character is. So that's something I've really seen, especially when, as a incoming freshman for college, I'm looking at people's who are going to my school. I'm looking at their Instagrams, and that's kind of like a first impression ish way to seeing like who you might want to be hanging out with in college. So I think that's kind of interesting because Instagram is like a really big way for people to just show who they are.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I also use Instagram, Snapchat not so much, but mainly Instagram, sometimes Twitter. Instagram, like you said, keep up with friends, see what they're doing. For Twitter, it's a mix between getting news and just also keeping up with other people. So I think social media has its pros and cons when it comes to like receiving news, but as long as you like have a nice balance between like getting the information for yourself versus seeing like a headline and like going with that, I think that's a good balance of it. Next question is, what do our explore pages consist of, and how does it help me connect with others? So for me, my explore pages are mostly art related. Um, like if I see an idea and I want of some artist in like Korea or India or Australia, all those different cultural aspects kind of help, blend together new ideas for creating art. Um, it helps me connect with my friends. Like I know some friends who are also into art. And I was like, oh, did you see this so and so post? I think it's cool if if you were to work on this thing, that we have trouble with when it comes to making art. And so I think that's really useful.
Yeah, my explore page also consists of a lot of art. Um, and it consists of a lot of stuff. Art and like just funny random posts. There's a lot of food videos. That's like all I can think of. But it does help in order and like with connecting with others, it helps me to just kind of bounce off ideas with other people that like may share the same interests. Like I have another friend that also is interested in art, and we're able to just send each other posts. And also it just helps me like inspire different thoughts and creative thoughts and ideas for my own art. So that is something that I find interesting also, is that like people's explore page are kind of based off of who they are. I have a cousin who's really into cars, and like his explore page is full of just car stuff, and he like takes photos of cars, so it kind of helps him as well. So I think it's kind of just a way for people to get inspiration. So yeah.
100%.
The next question is, do we consider how we are portraying ourselves to the online world when we use social media, and how? I definitely consider how I'm portraying myself, especially because like my parents have also. I think that was a big thing that they were emphasizing when I got social media in the first place, and then especially because I'm older and like gonna start working in that kind of sense. Um, but it is like there's on the online world, like there's so many people on there's so many people on social media, and it it's really dangerous online. It can be, so it's good to like be aware of how you're portraying yourself, and I kind of do that by just making sure that what I'm posting, I feel that like that reflects who I am, and it's not showing a different side that I don't know, it's not showing something that's not my personality.
Right, 100%. I do think it's easy to get caught up in trying to meet expectations or try to follow the norm, or I know like social media, the way I portray myself is also similar to how I am in reality. But also I do feel like sometimes the need to show that I'm doing more than what I'm actually doing, just to like kind of fit in with the crowd sometimes. So I know that can be kind of, I see what you mean about it being dangerous.
Yeah.
Our next question: why do I use social media, and what are my goals for it? So, why I use social media? A lot of news is very accessible through a social media. Also, keeping up with friends, following pop culture. I think that's the biggest reason for me, just to follow pop culture, because everything is everywhere now. Um, and my goals for it, I guess, just keeping up with the times. I guess um, I do think that I spend a little too much time keeping up with pop culture with social media, but it's very useful for that.
No, I can so relate actually. I think I might be spending too much time on social media, but we'll address that another time.
Yeah.
Um, why do I use social media? I would say the same reasons basically. Like basically everything is on social media now, and it's kind of if you're not on social media, you're missing out in some way. And it's not bad. I've definitely like deleted my social media sometimes because I needed a break. But I think just everything's on there. It's a great way to connect with people, even like the people you don't know. It's a great way to like find new opportunities, and it's also just a great way to. It's a good distraction sometimes. So yeah, that's why I use social media. I guess the next question we can move on to is, how do you help prevent social media from negatively impacting your mental health? So just like I was saying before, I have had quite a few times where I've just deleted my Instagram randomly or my Snapchat randomly, just so that I can like resist the temptation and not go on it. I've had a couple of friends that have done that too, and it's really helpful. It's nice to just. It's funny because I'll just like keep going on my phone even though I have nothing to go on, but it's nice to, I don't know, not feel like you need to keep checking in on Instagram. Um, I also, at a certain point, was like putting on time limits for my social media because the iPhone lets you do that. So yeah, those are ways that I prevent social media from negatively impacting my mental health.
100%. I agree. Deleting apps. Sometimes I would just not use my phone because my front page is like 4 social media apps. But I 100% agree. Just sometimes being on there without like an actual like purpose. I know like I follow this basketball forum, and I would check it like how a numerous amount of times a day just to see if there are any new posts like for discussion. And it would get to the point where it could be like a whole day without new posts, and I would just keep going back every hour or so seeing what's new. But yeah, I definitely believe taking a break in general from like social media is very helpful in preventing mental health. Also, um, keeping an open mind when it comes to not comparing yourself to other people. That's very important when it comes to uh, preserving your mental health when it comes to social media, because I know it's easy to get caught up, like to look at what other people are doing, and kind of having a sense of not envy, but you kind of wish that you were doing something as well. I know I've experienced that, but yeah. Next question is, how can parents learn to understand the relationship between a teen's social life and social media? Um, so for me, I think it would be useful just for parents to kind of talk with their kid in general, see how they're feeling. Um, Not like, it all depends on like, the relationship that you have with your kid. I know some people are more open to talking with their parents than others, but just keeping an eye out and seeing if they need anything. If something seems off, and you can ask them, "Oh, did you see this on social media? Did you see that? Did you see that? What's going on? Like what's happening?" I think that's very useful. Just communication in general, I think, is a big factor.
I would agree with that, and like I think that's a huge part about it is just talking to your teen because we all experience social media and our social lives completely differently. So it's kind of hard to like read articles about that and like make a good enough under like understanding about how your teen is in with their social life and their social media.
Yeah,
And it's really easy to like look up stuff online and get even more freaked out and like worried for your teen. So it's good to be able to get both sides, like the cons and the pros, and just also like your teen's personal experience so that you have a better understanding of what actually is happening. Where are we? The next question is, does the way you use social media coincide with your beliefs and moral values? I would like to say yes. I do not support cyberbullying, but also like just being able to just see like post like what I post, what I repost, if I even do that. all that kind of lines up with like who I am and my personality and just like how I am on my phone in general. Like I'm not super like vocal on social media, but I I look at stuff a lot, and I'm not a very just vocal person in general, kind of in a way. Like I'm not super on technology communicating with people, but I will like see what people are doing. Um, so it's just important to the way you're treating people in person lines up with the way that you're treating people online too.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I think there are a lot of people who the way they act in person is completely different than how they would act online. You know, there's like a what's the term? Keyboard warriors. That's one of them. Like people will like talk crazy online, and then in person, they're not the exact same person. Um, so I think it's important to like actually maintain any semblance of like how you would be in person. Um, for me, I 100% agree that my the way I use social media do coincide with my beliefs and moral values. Uh, in terms of like posting, I don't really post as often. Or like if I see something going on, I don't like really repost it. But I think it's super important to like if you see something that's like not you know not really acceptable, I do think that it's a good idea to at least bring attention to it.
I agree.
Uh, what are the disconnects between parents and teens regarding mental health, and what makes teens feel uh, better heard when talking about their emotions? Uh, for me, I think I think listening is a obviously I think listening is a big portion of making your teens feel good whenever they share something with you. Taking it seriously and not making a joke out of it is also very important. Um, Me personally, when I feel better heard when I'm talking to my parents and they can like relay what like a portion of what I said back and kind of like help me connect with them. And yeah, I think listening rather than thinking about what you're going to say next is a huge part of it.
I completely agree. Like that's took the words right out of my mouth. Listening is such a huge part of hearing your teens talk about like their emotions and just their experience, and then being able to just validate that that's how they're feeling and understand that that's how they're feeling, and also um just not trying to not don't like invalidate their experience because they haven't been living on this world as long as you have or others, because I know that can feel really condescending kind of in a way, I think, and it kind of just puts the attention on the wrong thing, because I think when talking about mental health, people just want to be heard and listened to instead of being told like how, at least at first maybe they want to be heard and listened to instead of being immediately met with you need to do this, or well, you're not, you things are going to change, like blah blah blah. So just having some type of sympathy or empathy and understanding of what it's been like when you were a teen in their position. Um, the next question is mental health something that you talk about with friends? That mental health is definitely something that is talked about with my friends. Um, I don't know. I feel like when you meet the right friends, at least, it's not something you even like. It's not something that you walk like. Let me figure out how to say this. It's talked about a lot and freely. not a lot, but it's talked about very freely. No one really feels uncomfortable talking about it. I feel like, I don't know if it's the friendship or just when you know that you have that close friendship, you're able to just talk about it without any problems. And it makes everything so much easier when you feel heard by your friends, and you feel like you understand that you have so many friends that feel the exact same way as you or experience similar situations, and it makes you realize that you're not alone, or that or realize how many like how many teens actually feel the same way as you, or people in general, and it's actually very surprising to hear. What are your thoughts, Justin?
Yeah, sorry, technical difficulties, but yeah, I you took the words out of my mouth with that one. For me, I think it's just good to have that support system for when you do need to talk to someone. Uh, in terms of like how often I talk about mental health with my friends, yeah, it doesn't really like it's not really something that hey, let's talk about mental health. It's kind of like if I'm going through something or if they're going through something, they can approach you or I can approach them and kind of have that conversation through there. Um, I think it is important to uh, try to be, the best support system that you can for your friends or like your teens, because people really need it sometimes. Just being able to feel confident or comfortable coming to someone and speaking about issues without being judged or feel like, or they feel like they're being listened to. I think that's very impactful. Uh, what are ways teens don't feel heard by their parents or other adults when talking about mental health? Going back to what Camy said earlier, not I feel like teens don't feel like they're heard when uh, parents or adults discredit what they've or what they've experienced because they haven't been living on the earth as long as they have, and I feel like I'm not being heard sometimes when people uh, don't take it as seriously or as I'm taking it, or they make a joke out of it, uh, even though it's maybe like a really pressing issue that I'm dealing with. Yeah, I feel like just being able to impose empathy and listening can help prevent your teens not being heard.
I completely agree with everything you just said. Um, I don't know if I can even add on to that because you kind of summed it up. I guess another way teens might not feel heard is maybe if you try to flip it back on to yourself. I don't know, or if you bring in bring up other people, they might feel like they're being compared to like maybe their siblings or I don't know their friends, even though like we all struggle with our own personal battles and we don't really know what other people are experiencing. So I think that's just important to remember that when your teen's opening up to you, it's because they're choosing to open up to you, and it might not be as big a step as it is for everyone, but like it's still a step and towards opening up. And I think it's a just good to remember that they're actually telling you how they feel. The next question is, what irritates teens when it comes to trust? So I would say what irritates me, at least personally, is when I feel like I'm not being trusted from the start with like, but I feel like I've proven myself to be like that I'm trustworthy. So, and even though I don't know, like tracking your teens on your phones, I get it, I get it. But then at the same time, it also makes me feel like, do you not trust that I'm going where I'm going, or that I will be able to communicate with you and contact you, like keep you updated. So I think it goes both ways. Like you have to prove yourself, but they also have to get out of the comfort zone as a parent and be able to see if your kids are able to, or if you can trust your kids.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think when it comes to trust, at least, like you said, I understand like the concept of like tracking your teen, but and I do believe trust is like a two-way street. So if like I've done something to make you distrust me, then I like completely 100% understand. But um, if I've already proven that I can be in the right mindset or avoid doing certain things, and but you still don't trust me to go somewhere, I feel kind of taken aback by that. I mean, I understand sometimes it may just be for my safety, but at the same time I feel like as we're transitioning into adulthood, uh, it's crucial to kind of just have that trust with your teen. And what irritates teens when it comes to communication. Uh, so for this one, I think it goes back to opening up with your teen and talking about mental health. Uh, what I don't like with communication, I don't like when um, I feel like I'm not being heard, obviously, and also people like when I'm talking to someone, they seem to be prioritizing something else over having a genuine conversation. Like maybe they're on their phone or doing this or that. You know, that's for me personally. At least for communication. I also think that ties into trust a little bit. Like if I can communicate, or if we can have a dialogue or connection with each other in terms of like understanding the boundaries that were set, then I think that's a huge part of building that relationship.
Something that really irritates me, like extremely irritates me with communication with parents, is that, of course, teens have this huge, like, we're screenagers, we love technology, we're all on our phones. I hate when I'm trying to talk to my parents and they're on their phones, like, and it's not like they're even doing work on their phones. It's like my mom will be reading articles or on her email, or my dad will be on Facebook. And I'm just like, oh, like, this is what you don't like about me, and you're doing that. Like, please stop. So that's one thing that really, really makes me upset, and irritated. But communication, I mean, I think you kind of summed it up, and that also just not being af- afraid to. Like, this goes both ways, like from the parent side and the teen side. Just not being afraid to talk about certain topics and just initiate it, because the other person might be waiting for that initiation from you, coming from you, or I don't know. You both want to talk to each other, so just not being afraid to talk about different topics that you haven't before. What irritates teens when it comes to social media? I think in some ways it's funny, the disconnect, like how some parents don't know about pop culture and like stuff that's happening on social media. Sometimes it can be frustrating because you want to share a funny thing or you want to share something, and then I'm hit with like, that doesn't make it, like, just nothing. Like, there's no laughter coming from my mom when I show her something that's funny, or skepticism when I show her something, and she's like, which is it makes sense, because it's like she's trying to get me to think like, why are you trusting this source that's on social media? And I'm like, okay, but it it's valid. Like, you can look it up on Instagram, on Google, and it will be there. So yeah, that's what I would say that irritates me.
Yeah. Uh, so for me, what irritates me, I don't really know. Uh, I guess, you know, uh, I think yeah, also when I show my parents something that, I think is particularly funny, they really get a reaction. I mean, I'm not asking you to give a fake laugh, but just like acknowledge it at least. I felt kind of proud of it. But I don't know, I guess just kind of, you know, having a connection with your parents, like using social media, you know, not to say, have to be connected on every single thing that like you see on social media, but I think it would be cool to kind of like have similarities or uh, similar interests that you can like share with each other through social media.
Yeah, like don't be afraid to send a TikTok to your team.
Right, right,
It will be good. They'll laugh. I
right.
promise.
Uh, we have a couple more questions. I think I'm going to. All right, yeah, yeah. So, what irritates a teen when it comes to understanding a teen's social life? Um, for me, I think uh, I don't like being kind of like, I don't know what's the word, when I come home from like school and completely kind of out of it, is like as soon as you walk through the door you like kind of get bombarded with like questions.
Yeah.
Like I get that, like you want to know about my day and everything. you know uh I appreciate that, but at the same time, it is kind of tiring when it comes to understanding the teen's social life. I think it's me for me personally, like with my parents, I kind of like I don't like really like to intertwine my home life with my social life, because I don't know. I don't want to say lame, but like it's not, I'm not comfortable with it, and my parents know that I'm not comfortable with it, but like what irritates me sometimes is like when I don't feel comfortable talking about something, but they still kind of like probe into the topic itself and try to get a response out of me. That's that's just me. That's for me though.
No, I completely understand that. Because it's like I think sometimes actually I think I might be addressing this in the other questions, but so I'll continue with this. Um, when it comes to understanding a teen's social life, I think it's important not to judge unless you're like rightfully judging them. Like if they're doing something, if your teen is doing something like really stupid and unsafe and like that could harm them, then yeah, definitely judge them for that and like make sure they don't do that. But I think it's important to remember that like you were a teen also, like you remember like there's not that much to do low key, especially when you before you start driving. Um And so a lot of the time it's kind of just you're just around you just want to be around your friends. It's not necessarily about what you do. It's more just about being there with each other. So sometimes I remember my parents would be like, "Why are you just hanging out? Like what are you doing?" And I'm like, "Well, I don't like we don't know what to do. We're just with each other for now, and then we'll figure that out as time goes on." So I think it's just important to remember that like you were also in the situation and I don't know. I don't know what my parents were doing when they were teens, but it has to be a little bit similar to what I'm doing. I hope.
Yeah.
The next question is how do teens view the relationship with their parents? Is bonding slash spending time with each other something you are concerned about? And how do you address those thoughts? I um so this question is actually a really interesting question for me because I came up with this question after um I was looking up question ideas, and then I saw a bunch of articles kind of just about um, questions for parents to ask their teens in order to like start conversations. So then I was thinking, like, I personally, I don't know if that's something I am concerned about on the same level as my parents are or would be, like my relationship with them, like how much we talk and what we talk about. And I feel like just the perspective of how parents feel about that versus how teens feel about that is interesting, because I don't think teens consciously are thinking about like what conversations they have with their parents and how to communicate with their parents. I think they're kind of just going throughout their day, and they're kind of really focused on just spending time with their friends and hanging out than like hanging out. I mean, hanging out with family, yes, that is something that is always also prioritized. But I think a lot of it is like hanging out with friends a lot, and it's interesting to see um, how parents are about communicating with their kids. And I don't like bonding and spending time. It's not something I'm concerned about, but it's something that when I see that I'm hanging out with my friends too much, I am like, okay, I need to spend time with my family. Or like whenever my mom kind of has a busy schedule, so whenever she's free, I like am always sure to prioritize hanging out with my mom over spending time with my friends. So that's how I kind of make sure I balance my family and friend life.
I agree. I agree fully. Um, I guess for me, it's not a huge concern when it comes to bonding and spending time with my family. I think, at least for my siblings, it's kind of like we kind of stick to ourselves, but we know how to like balance, being too secluded and like spending time with everyone. I think just finding the balance is really important, because you don't want to kind of isolate yourself, from the people who you've known for your whole life. But um, I think if your teen is isolating themselves or kind of keeping to themselves is 100% or is a good chance that it's not out of like any malice or ill intent. Some people just need to be alone sometimes. But as long I think it's important to try to build or maintain a steady relationship between the two. So yeah, for the last question we have, going on, how do teens view their relationship with their parents? Is do you feel that parents want to know more than they should? Uh, yeah, I agree. I would say yeah. Going back to the point about understanding the your teen social life, uh, I kind of don't want to share every single thing that I've done with my friends. And then, saying that, my parents would be like, oh, it must have been something bad. No, it wasn't anything bad. I just don't feel like talking about like every single thing that I've done, because some of it was just like minuscule. Like what you said, we don't really have to do anything to just, you know, be around each other. We can just like chill out for like the whole time. And, uh, and it's cool. But like, you know, I feel like, uh, I think uh, probing too much into your teen social life could kind of like, you know, put them off or push them away a little bit, just because there's like a feeling of there may be a feeling of their distrust or like boundaries that have been crossed. But yeah,
I agree. Um, and like, I think because teens, I mean, everyone deserves some bit of privacy. And I think that's all that I think teens just sometimes feel like their privacy is being invaded. And and by not pushing too hard is how you're able to create like get your teen to open up more. I feel like because they won't feel like they need to tell you everything, or they don't feel like they're being forced to when they really don't want to. Like they feel like they have the option to open up, and they feel like they're in a comfortable and like safe environment to do so. Um, I forgot what I was gonna say. I was gonna say something else, but yeah, that's basically what I said.
Thank you. We have a question. This one is from Jill, and then I'm going to address a couple of things. But thank you guys. This was great. it's a lot of information. I wanted people to understand that it's a lot of information but you guys thought everything was important. So we got it all in there. Jill says, talk about driving. Why no motivation to get a license? And I feel this because that happened in our household, and I hear it in a lot of households. It's something particular about your generation, and I've heard a few theories why, but I want this to come from you. And in our household, like in others, once the license was obtained, whether forced or just all of a sudden everyone in the friend group was doing it, then you never see them again. I'm like, first I couldn't get you to get a license, and now you and my car are gone. So why don't you guys address that for us?
It's kind of crazy because I feel like I was like, it's funny because I was like late compared to everyone else in my grade in terms of like getting like my permanent license and stuff like that. I don't know. Like, I don't know where the lack of motivation comes from. I think it's just in our heads is like a lot to go through to actually obtain it. And then like once we actually obtain it, we're like, oh, this is cool. You know, you kind of zoom off and just kind of forget about everything. I guess, you know, driving, the motivation to actually go through the process is not there all the time, but like once you actually do it and get it, then you know, oh, this wasn't that bad. Bye now, and then you just leave. But you know,
For me, like personally, it was out of pure laziness. Like my birthday's in October, so I should have been like some of the first people to get my license in my grade, but I waited till March to get my permit, and then I had to wait again till March to get my license. But I had some friends that were jumping to get their license. They were like quick with it. They got it like on their birthday. But yeah, I think it was just like another thing that I had to do, and it was procrastination. It gets you really easily. But then yeah, once I got my license, I was out and about like nobody's business. There was a certain period of time though where I just didn't want to drive. Like I was just like having everyone drive for me. So it changes. It changes.
Okay, so you guys touched upon a lot of good stuff, but I want to ask one question. We won't get to the others because you addressed a lot, but we talked about mental wellness and checking in. So what is the best way to inquire for a parent to inquire about your mental wellness or to initiate a conversation? Because you said don't be afraid to communicate. So how can we best, without irritating you, how can we best inquire about mental wellness or just initiate a conversation in general?
I'm not gonna lie, it's kind of hard, but to do what I'm about to say, but like kind of just if you're trying to have a talk with them in that moment about just like anything in general and they're not really giving much back, then maybe that might not be the moment to have that conversation. But when they seem like talkative and like they want to talk, I think that's a perfect moment to just kind of just ask kind of, I don't know, how you're like start broader and then get more specific. Like, how are you doing? Like, how's school? How's like work? Like your workload? I don't know, and get more and more into the specifics of how do you feel like are you stressed? Are you stressed with like everything that's going on and stuff like that? I think gets easier for them to like ease your way into the conversation.
yeah, I agree. I think it's mostly just timing, really. So, you know, some things to like maybe look out for. You know, if any abnormal behavior, I guess. And I don't think like you have to, in my opinion, you have to kind of like wait like sometime afterwards after you see those signs because, like Camy said, if you approach them at a time where like it's still like you know fresh and they're not ready to talk about it, then you're gonna get you know like pushback and you know they're probably not gonna open up to you a lot. So I think just waiting a bit after you like notice something off is good.
Thank you for that. This has been wonderful. I loved how you talked about using Instagram to reach out to new communities. That is something that is uniquely your generation. Other generations haven't had that. So how Camy can outreach to people who are going to her new college. So then when she gets there will already be people that she knows, even if she's only known them online. I really like that. And you guys are lucky that way. And I just wanted to point that out because we as parents always think of the negatives of social media, but that is a really good positive so that you're already building a community around it. And then when you get there, in person, you'll have this community. It may shift, but you have one there. Any last minute thoughts or anything? Because this is it. Our interns will be leaving us soon, and I'm very sad about that. Anything that we left out or that you think the parents should really know, or one thing that they should remember?
Just patience, I guess, is a good thing to remember when communicating with the teams, because trust me, it gets irritating from both sides. So yeah.
Yeah, I have to say patience as well. It's probably the biggest thing.
Well, you guys, please have patience with us and know that I was really happy to hear that you prioritize family time, because we don't think you do. So that you're actually thinking about it is good news to us. And just know that when we want to know everything, it's just because we love you so dearly. And also, we begin our relationship with you knowing everything about you, literally everything. I remember the first time a sitter took one of our sons away, and I was like, I don't know what's happening. Like, I really wanted to put on, a trench coat and some shades and see what they were doing, just not because I thought something was wrong. It's just because it was the first time I didn't know what was happening in this child's life. So you have to be patient with us. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, everybody, for sticking with this conversation and hearing all of the nuggets of wisdom that we received from our teens today. We look forward to speaking with you again next week, on next Tuesday, but you don't have to wait that long. Sue will be here on Thursday, and she will be speaking with another expert in a topic that is of interest to parents and who are raising teens and tweens. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you, Justin and Camy. Good luck in school next year.
Thank you.
Thank you.